Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. November 3rd, 2017.
105 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends, big announcement today at 2:35. I hope all of you can join me. Also, tomorrow from 9 a.m. until noon, special live show here on WRKO. I will be hosting it along with my wife, Dr. Grace. She'll be co-hosting with me a live call-in show, so I hope all of you can tune in. I have a column up on WRKO.com, one of my most personal, emotional columns I've ever written. Please go to RKO.com, read it, and pass it on to as many of your friends as possible. Okay, joining us now, Judy Kennedy, the mayor of Lynn. She's in a tough re-election campaign. The election is next Tuesday, November 7th. Her opponent is State Senator Tom McGee. I call him Mr. Magoo. The guy that wants to, yes, the same guy that wants to load up Massachusetts with tolls everywhere. He wants them on 93, 95, 128, Route 1, Route 2. This is her major challenger on Tuesday. Judy, thank you so much for coming on the Kuhner Report.
Jeff, it's been a while. Great to talk to you again.
Please tell me you're going to win on Tuesday.
You know, if people exercise common sense, I'm going to win on Tuesday.
Well, that's common sense. Judy, a lot of people don't have common sense in the state of Massachusetts.
Well, you know it and I know it, but when there's such an obvious grab for more of our money in terms of this toll proposal, I mean, that has to be about as blatant a move as anybody can imagine. I mean, Jeff, if we're trying to be fair to everybody, then why not take the tolls down on the roads that are already paid for, as we were promised during those roads' construction? Wouldn't that be fairer to everybody?
That makes a lot of sense to me, Judy.
Okay, and how about if we're looking to improve infrastructure, not once in anything that I've seen published on this matter, and I've seen an awful lot of written material on all of this, did you see any line items suggested where we should perhaps cut or eliminate in order to narrow the gap that the taxpayers are supposed to pay for this big project?
Now, Judy, I'm just curious, do you think that the residents, the citizens of Lynn, realize just what a far left-wing extremist he is and how rapacious he is with their money?
The people who are thinking for themselves and looking at the issues most certainly realize that. There are so many people here in Lynn, you know, it's always been run by family dynasties until I became mayor 8 years ago. But there are some who just have a loyalty to that family name and will vote for that name regardless of the positions or the issues staked out by the person bearing that name. And it's really unfortunate, but I've worked really hard over the last several months to give people a list of the accomplishments that I've been able to achieve here in Lynn without going after them in the pocketbook and wallet.
Judy, I'm just curious, for all our listeners, and we have a lot of them in Lynn, what are those achievements?
Oh, I mean, for one thing, we haven't had a new school built in Lynn since the 1990s. We're operating 5 schools currently that are over 100 years old. And I was able to complete a brand new $80 million state-of-the-art middle school here in Lynn, housing 1,000 students. It came in ahead of time and on budget, and it's being used as a template for, sort of boilerplate middle schools that other communities might want to build. And we did that with 80% reimbursement to the Mass School Building Authority. Another big area of which I'm proud is we have a brand new market basket, 381 jobs. 86% of those people employed at Market Basket are from the city of Lynn. That site was the former GE factory of the future. From the 1980s until present, no mayor was able to get GE to move and actually sell that property. But when I threatened to go out to their headquarters, since I was getting nowhere with the local people, all of a sudden they moved off the dime and things started happening. And 6 years later, after enduring the Arthur T. whole debacle, we ended up with our new market basket opening this past Labor Day weekend. And then the third thing that I'd cite as the major achievement, of which I actually have an 8-page list if anybody's interested, is Lynn Auditorium. The auditorium was renovated in 2005. It's a 2,200-seat concert venue. From 2005 until 2010, when I became mayor, there were only 2 to 3 ticketed shows a year being done at the auditorium. I brought in air conditioning. I brought in a professional booking agent. I brought in a professional bartending service, a professional security service, and I signed a contract with Ticketmaster to give us a more regional reach. And this year, we're on target to have 60 shows at the auditorium. And all of a sudden, everybody's taking credit for why the auditorium has taken off and spawned a bunch of restaurants downtown and brought people into the downtown. It's really ridiculous to see what some people, they're shameless. I mean, this didn't happen from renovation in 2005 until when I took office. So why all of a sudden did it become their thing to take credit for when shows started happening and people started coming to Lynn's downtown? What were they doing the prior 5 years?
We're talking with the mayor of Lynn, Judy Kennedy. She's in a re-election race. The election obviously is on Tuesday next week. Mayor Kennedy, your rival, State Senator Tom McGee, doesn't want to just load up the entire state with tolls. He also is a big supporter of Massachusetts becoming a sanctuary state. He will not give his opinion on whether Lynn should become a sanctuary city. To me, no opinion is an opinion. He obviously wants Lynn to become a sanctuary city. So if McGee does manage to win, my prediction is you're going to have many more illegals flooding into Lynn, a lot more strain on local hospitals, local schools. The crime rate's going to go up. You're going to see more drugs, MS-13. Your taxes are going to go up. In other words, Lynn, this could be, the election of McGee could be the fatal blow that really brings down Lynn. Am I wrong?
You are absolutely right on that. There has not been an opinion expressed on that. When we had the vote for schools, we were trying to build another couple of new middle schools. We had a vote in March. Senator McGee, that vote was postponed by a blizzard, so the March 14th blizzard. So what was supposed to have been held on March 14th was not actually held until March 21st. It took until March 20th, 6 days after the scheduled election, for Senator McGee to come out in favor of the 2 new school proposal. I mean, the man will not stake out an opinion, be a leader, and defend it. I've found it very difficult. We've had 6 debates, and I can't tell you how many questions that were asked during those 6 debates were talked around in circles with no answers coming out. As the debate opponent, I find it incredibly frustrating. I don't know if the people who are watching these debates happen to notice that and say to themselves, he hasn't answered the question. And I hope those voters will go out in the next few days, call him up, email him, and say, just give us a yes or no. Just give us a number from 1 to 10. That was the question. We didn't hear that kind of an answer. And I've been trying, as I have throughout my 27-year political career, to give people straight answers. When I'm asked if Lynn should become a sanctuary city, my answer is no. And then I explain why. But when I hear, well, you know, that's a really difficult, it's not a yes or no, black or white answer. Hey, listen, if by definition that there is, he's one of the co-sponsors of the bill to make Massachusetts a sanctuary state, Jeff, wouldn't by definition any city within that state be a sanctuary city?
Of course.
Or am I missing something?
Of course. No, you're completely right. He's a radical, open borders globalist who wants to flood this state and flood the city of Lynn with illegals. And he doesn't care that it's the taxpayers that are going to pay for it, and it's the residents and citizens of Lynn that are going to suffer. Before I let you go, though, Judy, I want to ask you one question. The Public Teachers Union backs Tom McGee, but my understanding is he doesn't send his kids to public school. Am I wrong?
Well, they're both in college now, but they spent their entire K through 12 career at private schools, as opposed to my children, who are both proud graduates of the Lynn Public School System. I'm happy to say they're doing very, very well. My daughter is sitting here beside me as we speak, and my son is a senior at UMass Amherst, and I couldn't be prouder of them.
So, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, I mean, McGee in many ways is a hypocrite. He says he's a big champion of the public schools. Well, if he is, send your own kids to the public schools. But you see, he does what a lot of these elitists do. They send their kids to the best private schools, and for the rest of us, you go to public schools.
Well, you know, and that's one of the areas where I really take issue with some of the mostly Democrat, mostly left-leaning politicians who are opposed to charter schools and yet send their own children to private schools. I mean, if you're a person of means, isn't it great to have a choice? But if you're a person without that kind of money, shouldn't you still have a choice in where you send your children to school? What's wrong with that?
Judy, I couldn't disagree with you. You're 1,000% correct. Judy, so obviously Tuesday is going to be election day. What can people do this weekend, the next couple of days, to help you put you over the top?
Well, we have a few sign-holding events at various intersections in Lynn. I would urge them to call 781-599-JUDY. That's 5839, 599-5839, or go to my Facebook page, Reelect Judy Kennedy Mayor. Give us a shout-out. Let us know that you're here to help, and we'll put you to work sometime between now and Tuesday, whatever
all right,
fits
so
in your schedule.
Reelect Judy Kennedy Mayor.
Yes.
On Facebook. And
yep.
could you give the number again, Judy?
It's area code 781-599-JUDY. 599-5839.
781-599-JUDY.
Yes.
Judy, I wish you the best of luck. Fingers crossed. You have to win on Tuesday. You're all that stands between Lynn and the third world.
Well, I'm giving it my best, and I know my supporters are giving it everything they have as well. Just a few more involved people. Get out there and vote if you believe the way I believe, and give us a call if you want to help out. We'd be happy to have you on our team. And thank you so much to everybody for listening.
We've been talking with Lynn Mayor Judy Kennedy. Judy, God bless you. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you, Jeff.
Best of luck. Okay. To everybody out there, if you live in Lynn and you care about Lynn, you care about your family, you care about your community, you care about your neighborhood, you care about your kids, you care about your grandkids, go vote and vote Judy Kennedy. Okay, coming up next. However, if you're a Bernie supporter, it didn't matter how you voted in the primary because it's now official. The Hildebeest rigged it. Hillary Rotten Clinton rigged the Democratic primary. That bombshell next. She rigged it. She rigged it. She freaking rigged it. Hillary Rotten Clinton has now been completely exposed in a bombshell revelation in her latest book. Donna Brazile, who is the interim chair of the Democratic National Committee, has now officially confirmed what I've been saying for a long time and what many of you knew, but now it's undeniable. It is irrefutable. Hillary Clinton bought the Democratic National Committee, bought the Democratic Party, and made sure that Bernie Sanders could not win the primary against her. In other words, she stole it from Bernie. Right underneath his nose, she stole it. According to Donna Brazil, in this bombshell revelation, she says she now admits that she found a key fundraising document that exposed that Hillary Clinton, because the Democratic National Committee had been put under so much debt by Obama and by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, that what Clinton did was she came in and said, look, I'll pick up all the debt. I will basically pay for it. However, in exchange, I control the entire Democratic Party apparatus. I control all the staffers, who gets hired, who doesn't. I control all the finances. I control all the fundraising. I control all the data, the analytics, the planning, the I control everything. Now remember, this deal was cut 1 year before the actual primary began. The Democratic National Committee is supposed to be objective, neutral, impartial. It was in Hillary's back pocket before the primaries even began. He never had a shot. And she even admits it. The Clintons bought the Democratic Party. They bought the DNC. They bought the entire primary process. It was all rigged against Bernie. Now, a couple of points need to be said, and then I want to throw it open to you. 617-266-6868. It doesn't end with the Clintons. And let me tell you what happened to the Democratic Party. It's very simple. When Bill and Hillary took over the party in 1992, they are essentially a crime family, a crime syndicate. And they have now turned the Democratic Party and they run it essentially like it's a political mafia. And they're the ultimate godfather and godmother. And they have thoroughly corrupted the Democratic Party to the point that Bernie, who had all the energy, all the momentum, all of the passion, he had the votes, had no chance against her. This is like the old Soviet Union, whereby it didn't matter who the people wanted to vote for. The party apparatus, they had this thing rigged from the beginning. And what is to me absolutely incredible and very telling is Donna Brazil recounts this story, how she has to give a call to Bernie because now she looked into it, she found the smoking gun, she realizes now just how thoroughly bought off the entire Democratic system and the DNC and the primary was. And so she has to break the news to Bernie. And as she's telling him, she stole the election from you, Bernie. You never had a chance. All this voting was a sham, it was a charade. He says to her, but do you think she'll still beat Donald Trump? We have to help her beat Donald Trump. And when I read that, let me tell you what I thought right away. It reminded me of the old Communist Party. No matter what the Communist Party did to fellow communists, no matter how much they shafted them, screwed them, mistreated them, abused them, the party was everything. That was their church. That was their God. And so instead of crying bloody murder, instead of saying, oh my God, you stole this from me, like a good little Bolshevik, or in this case, like a good little Democrat, Bernie just took it and smiled. Hillary Clinton is like Al Capone. Let me repeat that. Hillary Clinton is like Al Capone. What do you want to indict her on? You want to get her on racketeering? You want to get her on fraud? You want to get her on murder? You want to get her on embezzlement? Or in this case, you want to get her on illegally and unethically buying off an entire party and an entire election. It's like, take your pick. And so, Who is her biggest supporter here in Massachusetts? None other than the chief, Pocahontas Senator Elizabeth Warren. Well, she was asked point blank about Donna Brazil's shocking revelations. Listen to the chief's answer. Roll it, Brittany.
Look, this is a real problem. But what we've got to do as Democrats now is we've got to hold this party accountable. When Tom Perez was first elected chair of the DNC, the very first conversation I had with him is to say, you have got to put together a Democratic Party in which everybody can have confidence that the party is working for Democrats rather than Democrats are working for the party. And he's being tested now. This is a test for Tom Perez. And either he's going to succeed by bringing Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders representatives into this process, and they're going to say it's fair, it works, we all believe it, or he's going to fail. And I very much hope he succeeds. I hope for Democrats everywhere. I hope for Bernie and for all of Bernie's supporters that he's going to succeed.
Very quickly, Senator, do you agree with the notion that it was rigged?
Yes.
All right.
So, excuse me? Whoa. If it was rigged, it was stolen from Bernie. So why aren't you recanting your endorsement of Hillary Clinton? You phony,
Very quickly,
fraud.
Senator, do you agree with the notion that it was rigged?
Yes.
All right.
So why are you still supporting her? I mean, her shtick is hashtag I'm still with her. Why are you still with her? She's a crook. She's a crook and frankly a dictator. She stole the election from Bernie. Now, to be fair, Bernie got compensated. They bought him off with a $600,000 beach house. That was Bernie's price. And to try to protect his wife from charges that she had embezzled over $1 million up in Vermont. But that was Bernie's price. He wasn't very expensive to buy off. But the fact of the matter is, you phony, you fraud, you should now apologize to the people of Massachusetts for backing Hillary Clinton, and you should say, I recant my support. I rescind my support for Hillary. Instead, you lecture us on a two-tier legal system, one for the rich and powerful and the rest for the rest of us, when Hillary Clinton is the very embodiment of the arrogant, out-of-control political crooks that get away with almost anything? You phony, you fraud, you. Okay, let's take it to the newsroom with Evan Heidenrich. Evan, what was President Trump's response to the verdict on Bo Bergdahl?
Very quickly, Senator, do you agree with the notion that it was rigged?
Yes.
All right.
Incredible. So now even prominent Democrats like Elizabeth Warren are admitting that Hillary stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders and rigged it, according to these bombshell revelations that have now come out in Donna Brazil's latest book. She was a former DNC chair and an interim DNC chair. And in her latest book, she says she found the smoking gun. And I want to read just a little bit excerpts from her book. She talks about how Bernie was pressuring her when she was then the interim head of the DNC, because Bernie said, look, this whole thing was bought. Everything was rigged against me. Now remember, Donna Brazil was the one, through the WikiLeaks emails we found out, that was giving Hillary Clinton the questions before these CNN debates beforehand. So she got the questions, I guess, from whoever, Jake Tapper or whoever, and then she would feed Hillary Clinton the questions so she would be ready ahead, to have prepared remarks, be ready for him at the time of the debate. That's a huge unfair advantage. But let that go. So she was in on the collusion with Hillary. But let that go. So she writes about how Bernie is now pestering her, saying, look, I want some answers. Quote, by September 7th, the day I called Bernie, I had found my proof, and it broke my heart. She went on to say, she describes how the Hillary campaign had taken a look at the DNC's books and that Obama had left the party $24 million in debt. And the party could not pay it off until 2016. So what happened was, like a vulture, Hillary for America, the campaign, and the Hillary Victory Fund, which was its joint fundraising arm, had taken care of 80% of the remaining debt. But there was a price. And when she found out the price, that they had bought off the entire DNC, and she was told this by a prominent lawyer at the DNC, no, that can't be true. How could this go on without me or anybody else knowing about it, according to Donna Brazil? And she goes on to say that the deal was struck between Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the previous DNC chair, big Hillary hack, and the Clinton campaign manager, Robbie Mook. And so, in a nutshell, this is what they found. They found that there was an agreement, a fundraising agreement, whereby in exchange for paying all of the DNC's expenses, Hillary Clinton, and by the way, this was signed by Robbie Mook with a copy to Mark Elias. He's the guy that paid for the Trump dossier. See how this all now comes together, how incestuous it all is? So this was signed by the former CEO of the DNC, Amy Dacey, Robbie Mook, with a copy to Mark Elias. And the deal was this. She will pay all of their debts and expenses, but in exchange, she controls the entire Democratic National Committee, the entire apparatus, all of the staff, who gets hired, who doesn't, all of the fundraising, all of the finances, all of the data, the debates, the analytics, everything, all the way down to the state parties. She controlled everything. Because deep down, Hillary Clinton knew that in a primary fight against Bernie, she would lose. And so the only way for Hillary to win was to steal it from Bernie by buying off the entire DNC. Now, forget collusion with Russia. Forget whatever the Democrats and the liberal media are alleging against Trump. The person that really belongs behind bars, the person that truly colluded in this election, the person that truly subverted our democracy, was Hillary Rotten Clinton. And President Trump today made a very important tweet. He is asking Attorney General Jeff Sessions, what is taking so long for him, the DOJ, and the FBI to investigate Hillary Clinton, appoint a special counsel, and go after Uranium One, the private email server, all of the crimes that she has committed, plus now having rigged and stolen the Democratic primary. And the question is this: where the hell is Jeff Sessions? Because it's time to lock her up. Coming up next, John Bolton, your calls. Don't touch that dial. 1:45 here on the great WRKO. Andy in Nebraska. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey, Jeff, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so I used to be a Democrat, and one of the things that led me on the journey of becoming a conservative was the sneaking suspicion that everything was rigged, because I was seeing all these apparatchiks go against value and traditional Democrat values, whether it's trade and whatnot. This is proven to be everything I feared, and part of the reason why I left the party.
Look, it's a party now really of crooks, of gangsters, of traitors. That's what this is. What you're seeing now really is the transformation of the old Democratic, the Roosevelt, Truman, Kennedy Democrats into really a modern day socialist communist party. And they're running it now like communists, up to and including rigging the vote. And so joining me now to discuss this and so much more is former UN ambassador, Fox News analyst, John Bolton. Ambassador, thank you so much for coming back on the Kuhner Report.
Well, it's my pleasure. Glad to be with you again.
Ambassador, I want to ask you, obviously there's a lot to talk about, but before I get to the Bo Bergdahl verdict and the terrorist attacks in New York, the Donna Brazil revelations, shockwaves everywhere, whereby she admits that essentially Hillary Clinton bought off the DNC, rigged the nomination, essentially stole the primary from Bernie. My question to you is this. Should there be an investigation of Hillary Clinton? Is it time for a special prosecutor? Because you look at this, you look at Uranium One, you look at her private email server, you look at all of the crimes or scandals that she's been involved in. Is it time now? Is President Trump correct? Is it time for her to be investigated?
Well, it certainly could be. It depends on a couple of things. I'd have to say, I think we should give due credit to Donna Brazil for blowing the lid off this thing. I read the excerpt from her book that was published yesterday, and I was stunned by her candor. And it really does open up just dozens of lines of inquiry. Here would be the issue that could be a criminal law violation, and we don't know enough about it at this point, but this would be it. The way this joint fundraising agreement between the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee is described, it's not a joint fundraising agreement. It's a takeover of the DNC by the Clinton campaign. And election lawyers, and I was one back in the day, will tell you that whenever two supposedly independent political committees are in effect operated as one, they should be treated as one by the Federal Election Commission and the Justice Department, and therefore that the limits that apply to one or the other apply to the combined operation. And yet the way the Clinton campaign used the DNC was to act as though it were still entirely separate. Now, you can have a joint fundraising agreement that keeps the organization separate, or you can have what we apparently have here. And so I think it's a matter to take a look at whether that issue, whether they've crossed the line, and I have to say, from reading Donna Brazil and her reaction to it, it sure looks like it.
Ambassador, the networks have not touched, the major networks on their news programs have not touched any of the Donna Brazil revelations. And this is me saying it, not you, and I just want to get your take on it. I think the reason why is twofold. Number one, it's incredibly damaging and incriminating of Hillary Clinton. Number two, it's very hard now for the liberal media to trash Donna Brazil. She's an African American, let's be candid. She was on CNN for many years. She was on ABC News with George Stephanopoulos. She's part of the media Democratic elite. I don't see how they can discredit her, so they're trying to ignore it. Will it work?
Well, I don't think so in this case, because there's a dynamic at work now within the Democratic Party that the supporters of Bernie Sanders have the evidence that they sought during the Democratic nomination process about how Debbie Wasserman Schultz had tilted the DNC in Hillary's favor. And Senator Elizabeth Warren was on TV yesterday, asked the direct question, was the nomination process rigged? And she said, yes, it was. So I don't think they can allow that to go unanswered. And therefore, although the media loves to cover struggles within the Republican Party, I don't think they're going to be able to ignore this. This is an existential struggle for the control of the Democratic Party that we're seeing now, and everything that the media have declined to cover. Really, the opponents of Hillary Clinton within the party are now going to strive to bring out. So I just don't think this dam is going to hold.
Ambassador, the news broke about maybe 2 hours ago. The military judge in the case of Bo Bergdahl, even though he pleaded guilty to desertion and misbehavior in the face of the enemy, says no prison time. In fact, no prison time, a dishonorable discharge. His rank has been reduced to that of private, and essentially he's going to pay $10,000 in a fine in sort of back pay. Other than that, he essentially skates. Is this, in your view, a travesty of justice?
It is absolutely a travesty of justice. I thought, if anything, the prosecution's request for, I think it was 14 years of jail time was too light. I think he should have been put away for life, throw away the key. What he did was inexcusable. It endangered his fellow soldiers. He confessed to the crime. This is hardly anything that's really debatable. I think it was the military judge here who really has violated the spirit of the military justice system by asking whether President Trump's tweets about Bergdahl prejudiced the sentencing process. That's obviously untrue. It's the judge who makes the sentence. And by recognizing that the president said something, he can put whatever feeling he has about Bergdahl or Trump or anybody else aside and do what military justice requires. And I just think he went out of his way to make a political point. I think it stained the military justice system, just as Bergdahl stained the reputation of the U.S. military. I just think the whole thing is a disgrace.
Ambassador, let me ask you point blank. Do you think that the judge's, let's say, anti-Trump animus, do you think that influenced his decision? Did he just want to thumb his nose at Trump because he had called Bergdahl a traitor repeatedly?
I think there's something to that. Look, I think there's something wrong with the military justice system, with the Judge Advocate General's Corps in some respects, that we tend to think of the military as a conservative institution, but there are certainly pockets of liberal social justice activists within it. Look at what happens when they try and put the terrorist on trial at Gitmo. I just don't think this has received enough attention. I hope it's something that the Defense Department will look into, because politicization of military justice is just as wrong as politicization of our civil justice process.
Ambassador, obviously, terrorist attack this week in New York. It was an Uzbek national who appears to have exploited the diversity visa lottery program. He got in 2010, sponsored at least 23 other people that we're aware of, did it in the name of ISIS, took a truck, mowed down 8 people dead, 12 wounded. One of them apparently had to get a double amputation. The FBI had apparently had questions about him in 2015, but again, they let him go. Is it time to get rid of the diversity visa program? And number 2, did the FBI drop the ball again because of political correctness?
Well, on the diversity visa program, I just don't even understand why you would have such a program. Anybody who's ever been to a naturalization ceremony in a U.S. district court in recent years knows that the people who have come into the United States legally, who have spent the time here that's required to apply for citizenship, who have passed the citizenship test, have shown themselves to be good citizens, we have the most diverse nationalization policy of any country in human history. And it's something we should be proud of for these people who become good Americans. What in God's name function is served by random admission of people to the country? So I think it was a mistake when it was adopted. We ought to get rid of it. And I think the problem here with the New York terrorist attack, as unfortunately with others, is that we continue to look at it, especially when it's foreigners who are involved, as if it's a law enforcement matter. It's not a law enforcement matter. This is a terrorist war against the United States. We should treat it under the war paradigm. That does not mean that we behave in a lawless fashion. It means we follow the laws of war rather than the criminal justice system that's really not intended to deal with this kind of phenomenon. And it's a tragedy like we've just seen in New York really ought to provoke people to think about it. As with the capture of the leader of the attack in Benghazi that resulted in 4 Americans being killed, he should not have been brought back to Washington to face a full due process criminal trial in the nation's capital. He should have been sent to Gitmo. The key should have been thrown away, and we should have interrogated him fully as a prisoner of war and an illegal combatant at that.
We have been talking with former UN ambassador, Fox News analyst, John Bolton. Ambassador, as always, great stuff. Have a wonderful weekend.
Well, you too, Jeff, and all your listeners. See you again next week.
Take care. Let's go to Mary in New Hampshire. Go ahead, Mary.
Jeff, I'd like to just try to tie all the players and pieces together as far as the money trail.
Sure.
And seeing if the money obtained from the Russia Uranium One deal that flowed to Hillary and the Clinton Foundation, etc., can be kind of tied to the money they did to bail out the DNC because of the overages and everything that they were in trouble with Obama. Obama must have known. He signed off on all of this stuff. So we don't have any kind of reason why that Uranium One deal came to be. And, it might have just been into a war chest. Then Hillary could then buy the nomination and keep going with the Hillary-Obama agenda as she's a shoo-in for the presidency. So essentially, Putin kind of funded the DNC, and these interference with our elections could all be tied together financially, too.
Look, Mary, you're touching on something, and thank you for this call. Really good call. Thank you for the call. Look, everybody funded Hillary's campaign. What we're now realizing is Saudis were pouring in money to the Clinton Foundation, the United Arab Emirates, the Gulf Sheiks, the Chinese, the Russians to the tune of at least $145 million. Everybody had bought her off. And they had amassed so much wealth, the Clintons did, through this slush fund, and so much power that they then leveraged it to buy the entire Democratic National Committee and essentially the Democratic Party. That's what they did. Now, on Uranium One specifically, that's treason. To this day, there is not one Democrat. Again, I issue the challenge. They're not going to respond because there's nothing. They can't argue. They can't refute this point. Why would we sell 20% of our strategic uranium reserves to the Russians or to any foreign power? Why? How is this in the national interest of the United States? It isn't. And then we find out that much of that uranium, there is no export license. It doesn't matter. It has left the United States, yellow cake, and gone to God knows where, maybe North Korea, maybe Iran, to be used by our mortal enemies into nuclear missiles that will be aimed against us. And I've got to say this. I think the question now is, where the hell is Jeff Sessions? Because it's come out now that he's recused himself from the Uranium One deal. Because apparently he spoke to a Russian ambassador when he was still senator. So if you're going to keep recusing yourself on everything that matters, maybe you should recuse yourself all the way to the door. It's time for a new attorney general. One with the cojones to go after Hillary Clinton. And whether it be Ted Cruz, whether it be Rudy Giuliani, and if they don't want to do it, give me a call. Jeff Kuhner, I'll do it. 617-266-6868. Mr. President, give me a call. I'll go after Hillary. This, so much more. The tax plan, how will it affect you? Next.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 2 o'clock.